Well, good afternoon, and we want to thank you for joining today's episode of The Fireplace Show. And today we got a really great subject matter that should be an interest to any consumer out there that's interested in knowing more about their chimneys and what's involved when a chimney inspection is done by a chimney sweep in the present day world. And assisting me today on this podcast is a gentleman by the name of Tom Urban. And you may ask, why Tom Urban? Well, when it comes to sweeping and scanning, Tom is the man. And I'm going to get into this as we go. So, Tom, you ready to talk to the public a little bit today? We're talking about sweeping and scanning.
So that sounds like game plan, Jerry. I know a little bit about it.
There you go, Tom. So this goes back to much earlier times. And you got into the chimney sweep industry, and you noticed that we needed a better way to inspect chimneys out there in Pennsylvania. You were in Northeast Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly. So let's start by telling them, what did you do to come up with a better way to inspect chimneys in today's world, Tom?
Well, it actually worked out, Jerry, that my experiences in Northeast Pennsylvania were the experience I needed to understand what was happening out there. A lot of masonry flues were being built, or chimneys were being built all over, putting on wood stoves during the energy crisis. And as this processed on, I was having more difficulty looking down any style of chimney. I tried mirrors, I tried flashlights, I tried a combination of trouble lights. And the bottom line was, I really didn't think I was really satisfyingly seeing what I really needed to see down the chimney to say, whether it was ready to go or it's not ready to go. So that's what encouraged me to basically create the now known as the Chimneyscan. I designed myself a closed circuit camera that I could use inside chimneys so that I could inspect them. And sure enough, Jerry, as I began to look down side flues with the camera, began to realize that I was missing a whole lot. Joints were left unopened. There were crack liners I didn't see. There were hidden breachings that I thought weren't there, and come to find out that they were. So as I proceeded through my company, this is 1983 when I first came out with it. So it just became a real crucial part of our company that we began to not only sweep the chimneys, but we began to actually pull the camera out and scan it to take a look at it to see whether or not the chimney was in a place to be used. A lot of situations, this is the time too, in the early 80s, when the energy crisis, everybody had a wood stove. Everybody was a wood stove expert. Everybody knew everything. And so trying to explain this to people made it even harder. But as time went on, people began to realize that they were looking at the interior of their chimney on my monitor screen, and they could make the decisions that this chimney needed some help, needed some work to get it back up where it needed to be. So that's kind of how it got started back in 1983.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I mean, did you see someone else somewhere using a video camera for doing where did this idea come from, Tom? Because this was pretty radical in those days. I mean, back in those days, chimney sweeps wore red scarves and top hats and tails, and they were considered that we're going to dance on rooftops. That was what we were doing. That's what the consumer. So did you just wake up one morning and say, hey, I need to make a camera to go down in them flues? What drove this, Tom?
The original idea, Jerry, I can't remember, but I do remember seeing something about that they were using video cameras down sewers. And I thought, wow, maybe this is the way I could use that. Well, my first time looking at it, I talked to a couple sewer inspection companies, and at the time, their cameras were equipped with a lot of extra things on it. They started out around $25 to $50 to $250,000, and I realized, the cost was prohibitive, and the other thing that involved with it was its size was way too big, and we needed something a whole lot smaller to work in residential chimneys. So that started the long search and going to electronic shows in New York City and having people you have a camera that can fit down a chimney, and get that. So I got turned away from a lot of folks along the way. But I finally found one gentleman who was willing to listen to my idea. And we had a 15, 20-year relationship until he retired. So Yeah, that's kind of how the idea came, Jerry. And I realized that I could see things using a mirror down a chimney with a light, but the problem with it was I couldn't show it to the customer. Now, unless they were on the roof with me, maybe if I set it up, they might be able to do it. But Northeast Pennsylvania, with the farmhouses with 612 and 1212 pitch roofs, this is exactly a place where people were gonna, hey, come on up on the ladder, let me show you something. That just wasn't gonna. That dog wasn't hunting. So we had to come up with a different way, and that's why the cameras were built.
Okay, so back when this started, Tom, and you were doing this initially as part of an inspection process because you had a chimney sweep business, when you started doing this, was it primarily that you set the monitor up for the consumer to watch it? And then as you scanned the interior of that flue system, did you describe it so they were seeing it on the monitor? Or what was this transition of them to get this information and for them to understand what you were talking about here?
Yeah, what I did, Jerry, is I realized, pretty much out of the box that even if I were to try to go ahead and do this from the top down, again, I'm back to the same problem. Or I put the monitor someplace where the homeowner might be able to see it, but then I couldn't see the monitor. So it really worked out that the way that we, through several years of sweeping under my belt, realized that the best thing we could do is come up with a way that while we're at the fireplace or at the thimble, the camera would have to go through it and go on up inside the chimney, and then I would be there with the customer, coach them through to show them what was going on. The interesting part about it is after a while, it kind of built a rapport with the customer that you'd show them a few things at the beginning. This is a joint, this is the side, the corner, or whatever, or here's a crack line or whatever. And it was kind of interesting as the camera would go up, I would start to remain being silent, and the customer goes, "Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that?" And they start asking questions, and then I realized that the customers really beginning to understand the brevity of what I was talking about, and there was a need to get something repaired. So yeah, so that's kind of how it really got started, by the ability to show the customers. So in reality, sometimes as a professional out there in the field, you can see a lot, from time when but you can't see everything. And the smaller the flues from 7x7. For 35, 40 feet, there is no way in the world you're going to see everything in a chimney. That can't happen. So this the only way to really see things. You got to see it up close using the camera.
Okay, so there came a time, though, that you knew you had to have a way to save this information. And earliest times, as I remember, when I got to know you was probably around 83, 84. You were actually showing your wares, your tooling at an HPVA show. You were in the Sleepy Hollow Chimney Supply booth. And as I walked back there, you had a camera up inside of a piece of flex pipe showing inside of this thing, and it was down on the screen. And it was kind of an intriguing thing at that point. But the next step was, how do you take this and save this documentation? There wasn't any digital save at that point. And I can remember when part of your system was that we used to buy this thing called a screen shooter. And this was kind of an archaic principle that was like this cone shape that went fitted up against this monitor, which wasn't a little bitty monitor in those days. And then we took a Polaroid camera. And if I remember right, the screen was black and white in those days. There was no such thing as color. And then you would take this picture that came off that basically was different shades of green. Do you remember those days, Tom?
Yes. Yes, it was called a screen shooter. It was designed to take images off of CRT screens, and it came off with a nice green.
Wait a minute. What's a CRT screen? Don't get technical on me.
CRT screen. That is cathode ray tube. And it's basically what a television or a monitor screen was built. It was an actual vacuum tube, like a TV.
So it was an old archaic television that you put this screen shooter up against. Am I right?
Well, LCD screens didn't come around until around 2003, 2004. So for a good 10, 12 years, we were building units with small 9-inch CRT screens. Yeah. And that was the gist of basically the best image quality available at the time. So, so the screen shooter was the tool that this is, of course, This is, let's see, 85, 80. Actually, even VCRs really weren't coming around until 85,
No.
86. So this is the
Right.
only thing that was available. The other cool thing we learned along the way was we actually did the documentation on the screen. So we used to take a Sharpie and just write on the screen and put an arrows and stuff on it and put the cone up to it and click it and bring it back and wait, pull it out, wait a couple seconds. Oh, yep, I got it. Or you have to wait. And it was a little bit archaic, but it did allow you to leave something with the homeowner. So that was kind of a good thing. But it was definitely, yes, it was tedious.
Right. And at that time, we used to have these old Polaroid cameras. And I can remember these from my childhood. This was something you put film in and you would get it was either 8 or 10 photos out of a roll of film, and you would shoot the photo and then you would pull it out the side, and you got to set it down for at least a minute and let it develop, and then you peeled it apart, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, we got into when I'm trying to think. I've lost the terminology that Polaroid had, but we got to the ones where you actually put it up to it, and you held the button, and it would just spit it out, and then you could it developed in front of you. So it took about 30 seconds to a minute for it to develop out.
Right, but that was back in the days we would buy cases of Polaroid because we'd go down to, I remember you telling me, go down to Wally World, which is Walmart, they got the Best Buy. But from that point, we did Polaroids for a couple of years, and the photo quality wasn't great. And we would give this customer these Polaroid photos and say, there's your chimney or whatever. But then the next thing was, if my memory serves me correct, they invented something called a VCR. And at this point, we started recording on VCR tapes, and we're carrying a VCR into the house. And we are also got the Polaroid and the screen shooter and the scan and the monitor, which had the old tubes in it. So it wasn't a little bitty operation. So now we basically got a big old toolbox on hand trucks wheeling it in the house. Is this correct?
You make it sound so archaic. Yeah, the first original units were close to 40 pounds with the casing and stuff around it. Then you had the screen shooter on it. And you're right, a two-wheel cart is about the only way you really got things in. But compared to the other things that the sewer guys were using and whatnot, they had those things in the back of a truck. So it was, it was dramatically a lot less than that. But still, it was a bit tough. And then I do remember even the early days when, gee, should we go Betamax or should we go VCR or VHS? And which way do you go? And the controversy and trying to find equipment and it's a never ending battle trying to keep up with recording devices. Even today, it's worse. So
it's like Steven that's just got the comment put in there. I remember those days too. Lots of Polaroids. I can bet you that Steven probably hauled a couple of Chimneyscans up the front porch and carried this. It kind of makes you think of the Titanic when those people went onto the Titanic and they had those trunks. That was kind of the early days. And the reason I say this is, guys today and gals doing this, they don't understand what we went through many years ago to develop what we went to. Because part of what you were doing here was, and like I said, the next step was VCRs. And, you talk about Betamax and VCRs and it's like, how many VCRs did we buy? But then another thing that come up, Tom, was screen capture. This is where we went out to the house and we took the VCR and we taped that entire production from the house. And then we took that VCR tape, took it back to the office. We watched it on our computers, and then we clicked a button when we saw the photo that we wanted. Would that be correct to your memory?
Yeah. God, I've gone through so many versions of it, Jerry. I've lost track, but I do remember there's a screen capture mode. Matter of fact, even Sony, I think, came out with one that we had that would record it, and while you were watching it, you could press the button, and it gave you out another little thing where you put it to a floppy disk card and pull it back out and use it. I think actually the real big change out probably came when we started using the Mavic apps, when we went to then. So instead of using the Polaroids, we went to something even greater. We went to the 3.5-inch floppy. You know, it was like you take the photograph and finally take the picture. Okay, I think I got it. So yeah.
It's like Ed Luna just said, the one with the VCR is the one I have. It's in the back with this black box camera. Okay, so Ed still got the archaic thing out there, you know, that probably deserves to be in a museum at this point. But, you know, this is just showing you. So let's keep going with the evolution, Tom, because what happened was in changes of electronics and what we went through over the years is things changed and things got smaller, things got lighter, and things got easier to do. Am I correct?
Yeah, it did. Today, it's extremely easy compared to what we worked with. And wait, now I think, let's see, a brand new unit that's full color, 10-inch screen, in a case with multiple controls and can do digital recordings for you. What once was 40 pounds is now 16. So
right, 16. And you also, at one time in your manufacturing, you manufactured your own boxing, if I remember correct, and you were making the cases to put this in. In fact, you had another business of building cases for people to put equipment in, and you were building these carts, right?
Still doing it. We still build
really?
them. Yep, we still build our casing.
You're still building casings?
Yeah, in some situations we use a Pelican style case for some from the lower end stuff, but for all the other 211s and all the other units or the specialty stuff, it's all still we design and build the casework here. I've got a network of people that I rely on, but most of my stuff comes either out of the United Kingdom and other places out of the United States. And those suppliers have been with me. I've had them for 30 years now, and we still continue to make them.
Okay, so as we went through this, Tom, let's back this up a little bit of time. When you started telling people about using this camera as part of the inspection process, what did industry members tell you? Did they tell you were crazy? Did they say that's a great idea? Did they say that's too expensive? Did they say I don't need it? What did you go through to develop this in the chimney service and inspection industry?
All of the above. That's really all of the above. You know, people told me I was crazy. I was scamming. I wasn't chimney scanning. I was scamming. I was told that it was way too expensive. I'd never buy one. It doesn't work. To a variety of things that people told me that wouldn't happen. But the real thing is that we knew it was a good idea. Our own past experience for 4 years we had it within our company after the 10 years of being in business. We realized that the impact that it had on how our ability to basically talk with customers, you know, say, hey, don't take my word for it. It's you know, here's the camera, here's the defects. This is your chimney. This is time for you to make a decision. And the interesting part about that is as we found the defects, we were able to somehow in a way, and I shouldn't say confront is a hard word, but basically show and exemplify to the customers that there was a real issue out there, and they needed to fix it. And our repairs, you know, what we did for people, you know, went from, you know, so many a year to X amount a year, went way up. But then too, it made it the repairs and the relines and things that we did, Jerry. We made appliances work so much better. We made them easier. Their maintenance costs and stuff after dropped dramatically. And wood burning actually started taking on its own. You know, and that's when we really began to see the true benefits. Is one, we could reduce the fuel amount going into the unit as far as firewood. With
Tom,
yeah,
I don't know if you see who just made a comment.
Oh my God.
Hey, that's Marvin. It used to be one of my sweeps. It's in Oklahoma now. Marvin, how are you doing? Because, you know, Marvin was one of the guys when he worked for me, Tom, that I used to have you. Marvin was the person that would contact you about needs, you mean? But look at Marvin. He said it took away the guesswork. How about that?
It did. It really did take, it was pretty, it did take the guesswork out. So I made a better relationship. We made better installations. People could burn their wood more confidently, and cleaning was a breeze now. So their maintenance costs went way down. So for that reasons, it was a really win-win-win. And the safety aspect, if there is to be a safety aspect, is we reduced the temperatures. We kept the condensates and creosote inside the liner, not going inside and destroying the chimney and possibility of having a structure fire. So go ahead, Jerry.
Part of this was there was a transition in the industry. And at this point in time, I want to mention a name that was a very good friend of mine and yours. He's no longer with us, but his name is Steve Blackburn. And Steve was probably the first sweep in America that embraced scanning every chimney. Would I be correct?
You want the story? I'll tell you it happened. It was in 1986. My wife went to a Superflu dealer meeting in Walton, New York, and Steve had just purchased the system and was getting ready to do cast and place lining systems. And as he was going through, wondering, he says, I've got this equipment, and I've spent, back in those days, they were $28,000. And he wanted to make his investment a good one. And he said, I got to do something to get this going. And Esther just casually said to him, hey, Steve, why don't you just go scan everything, that when you're out there in the field? And Steve, like, really? And sure enough, Steve, it's kind of cool how the story unfolded. Steve went back and actually did what did it. And the cool part is he leased out like 6 units from us. We got them out to him. We went out there that day, showed the guys how to use them. Columbus is only about 10 hours away, so it wasn't too bad. So we took the units to them, we delivered them, got everybody going. And then this is the kind of the hard part. Right after that started, the guys were really unfamiliar with this concept, and they really didn't like doing it. It took too much time and whatnot. Well, then the breakage just started to happen. And then finally, Steve put his foot down and said, here's the deal, folks. If that camera's not working, you're not working. And all of a sudden, repair stopped. It was miraculous. And then all of a sudden, this is the cool part. Steve used to keep an average. He used to call like an average ticket price. And when he had his 2 offices between Columbus and Cincinnati, back in those days, it was like $86 to $90 was his average ticket price. And as time went on, Steve began to see the guys were slowing down a little bit. They were showing the customers what the interior of the flue was. And as it continued on, Steve closed his office in Cincinnati, combined and concentrated his work in Columbus. And he used to keep his average. And I used to call him every once in a while and say, hey, Steve, how's the ticket? $235. No kidding. It's going up. Yeah. And the next thing you know, call him again, $431. I said, no kidding. And Steve was real meticulous. He kept up with his customers. He had the little green cards the customers would fill out. It was like a how do we do kind of card. And so that way we reward the guys if they got, very goods to excellence. And they even got a cash award every week. And that's how they that's how the process started. The last time with Steve, we talked about that. His probably average ticket cost was somewhere right around $1,600 or more. So it was really a huge change to the dynamics within Blackburn's chimney and the relationship he had with his customers. And he was a great marketer too. There's a lot of good things that happened through Steve.
Good. Well, we've got a gentleman came in from Germany. He's asking the question if chimney sweeps are supposed to be done by law in America, because as you and I both know, in Germany, they have to be done by law. In our country, Dr. Monk, no, it is not mandatory. It is not regulated. It's the wild, wild west here, and they put it in the German terms. But Tom, I got a very special person I'm getting ready to bring in here, okay? And This is, so you'll know, this is Debbie Weedwald. And Debbie is Steve Blackburn's. Steve was her husband. And like I said, Debbie is put it forth right there. It set our company apart from other companies in that area when we scanned chimneys. So Debbie, Steve, I mean, Tom, I'll let you say it. How big of an innovator was Steve Blackburn in this industry, and how good a friend was he to so many of us?
Steve was a great friend. Dearly loved. I mean, he'd come up with an idea for something, he'd try it. And if he wasn't sure about something, he'd call and we'd talk about things. And We tried working on computer things together, and I remember he worked on better ways to get, crown coats to work better. He thought of a lot of different ideas. I still remember Steve saying, these guys just go out there and just swab and rob. They don't know what they're doing, just swab and rob.
Yeah. So, Debbie, I really appreciate you tuning in here, Weston. So, Tom, Debbie's going to be one of my guests next week on one of my shows. We're going to talk about a couple things there about. So, Debbie, appreciate you being here. Yes. But please know Steve had an effect. So, Steve was the first one, Tom. And if my memory serves me correct, there were several of us that picked up. I picked up on it from Steve. Steve was in my mixed group, and I knew Steve, and he was a very good friend. And he shared with me what we were doing. And like I say, Marvin that actually tuned in a while ago, he was working with me back. He worked for me back in those days, and he kind of remembers when we started scanning chimneys and when he saw what it could do. But wasn't real crazy about it. But who was Bart Ogden, he was another person that was one of the first implementers of the system, wasn't he?
Yeah, Bart Ogden was. You were. Steve was. Trying to think off the top of my head, some of the other ones. Years are slipping by. It started out when the 3 or 4 of you guys started to do it, and we got involved with the mixed groups. Then it began to start to flourish more and more. There's names. There's unfortunately thousands of names go through my head anymore, Jerry. So I'm nothing's sticking to me. But if you said a name, probably I'd say, yeah, he started too. But it really started to take hold, and that was probably in the late, 85, 86, probably in the 90s, 95, 92. Where the interesting the other impact on it, Jerry, started when we began working on the white paper. When you start putting that together. And people were looking for defects, and so that we began to notice it. We're trying to standardize things and brought more attention to really what chimney fires were doing inside of chimneys, which a lot of people at that time had no idea. So Dr. Monk is back.
Right, and he's asking a question. That sounds somehow dangerous. Are there many accidents, explosions in the U.S. because of not maintained heaters and chimneys? Yes, sir. Every single day, because it is unregulated here in our country. And I have actually been in your country, and Tom has also. So we're well aware of the regulations in other countries of what's involved in there. But man, we really appreciate you being on here, Dr. Monk, today and joining us from Germany. That's a real high honor that we've got international watchers and listeners on this, Tom. So, but likely, when did we saw a few of us, but slowly and surely we have seen this industry make a shift to where probably a vast majority of people today do scan every chimney as part of their service. Would you agree that's where the industry has kind of gone to, Tom?
Yeah, relatively thousands of chimney companies out there today are actually sweeping and scanning to some effect. There are some still that do not use any equipment whatsoever, but for the most part, those companies that are growing, those companies have employees, those companies have some standards that they follow. They have all addressed the scanning and showing customers what's going on inside the chimney.
Okay, so Tom, using scan equipment, and I know what can be found, but I want you to put it into words. What are the things that using a chimney scan to examine the interior of a chimney, what is it going to reveal that many times a technician is not going to see with the bare eyes? I mean, one of the things that I remember, Tom, you and I have taught a lot of courses together over the years. And one of the teaching tools we used to have was this big, long wooden chimney that you built that we would haul to various seminars around the country. And we would set it down, and we're teaching the seminar with very good chimney sweeps, and we would hand them a strong light to tell us what the defects were in that chimney. And we can look down, and I could remember that you and I did this in Milwaukee one time, and we set this up, and there was one gentleman there. He's no longer with us. He was a really good friend, but I could remember Terry Dearborn came up with a light and looked in, and he said, you got this problem, this problem, and this problem. And most people would miss those problems. Right. So again, what kind of issues does this reveal when the chimney is scanned?
From that exercise that we did back in '97 in Milwaukee, Terry came real close. There were still a couple more that he had missed, but he had overall of many of the people out in the field, Terry came close to catching every one. The unfortunate the thing that a lot of folks don't understand is that when you're looking down a flue, and all the liners have to do is just move a quarter of an inch one way, and that is enough to cause a shadow that can go down almost, depending on the length and where you find it, go down anywhere like a half an inch to 2 inches. That is now you can't see it. There's no way you could take the brightest sunlight, whatever, and shine it down the chimney, and you still will not see the defect because the shadow created by the liner above it or below it causes the situation where you can't see it. It's very much the same as if the best way to explain it to layman. Have you ever thought you're driving down the road and you look in your rear view mirror and it looks like it's clear, and as soon as you begin to go over, actually hear a honk and there's somebody there? It's kind of the same thing. Your mind kind of fills your whole vision, thinking that you're seeing everything. In all reality, you're not. So it's a situation where. So what am I looking for? I guess the best thing is, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, can the chimney contain the products of combustion? Because that's what the codes, that's what liners are for, Jerry. And then that's what's to contain all the condensates, the gases, the smoke inside the chimney. So anything that doesn't line up, fall, or there's misaligned, or is opened, or lost a joint between them, then that becomes a candidate for some type of repair work. And that's what the camera does. It just shows you the interior of the chimney up close so that you can see and make sure the chimney can contain the products. And in some cases they will, and many, many, many cases they don't.
Okay, so let's bring this into play because, like I said, some of the things that I know is resolution of the camera and resolution of the camera and the monitor are vastly important. Am I correct?
Yeah, it is.
Is that what separates a lot of the cost from being at this level to this level? I mean, when people look at it, is that a big part of the cost difference when we look at different inspection cameras on the market? Is it because of the resolution? What is it that gives a differing cost between different models?
There's a image quality image quality and resolution is high, Jerry, and it's something that we've worked at for 35 years, and we try to find the best equipment at a price that's justifiable to bring it into it so that we can design and build it. So a large chunk of our time, even to this day, we're designing stuff probably we'll maybe see in the 2 to 5 years. And it's so constantly keeping it ahead. But resolution, there's also lighting factors, how you light it inside the chimney. If lighting has to be in such a way, if it's not done properly, you're not going to see anything. Either you spot it out, or you miss it, or it's not enough light, too much light. You have to work and deal with the irises within the cameras themselves, and some are auto, some are not auto. So these are some of the aspects and focal length and range and things all play in whether or not a camera's a good candidate. And the interesting part about it, that most of the cameras over the counters that people purchase or whatever, whether it's from small little mini sports like cameras or that are out there in the market, they're designed to see far away. They're designed to see 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet away. Where our stuff is designed to only see like 5 to 6 inches away. So that makes a huge difference on your field, your clarity, the image quality, and how it fulfills itself in contrast, and so how it feels on a screen. So all those things are all taken into place all the time. So that, and plus we don't build, we build the cameras. In other words, we don't buy stuff from China and Japan and whatnot and just bring it here and remarket it and send it out to somebody. We build them, and the process of that, we have to make sure that the camera's going to last. So we build it in such a way that it can take the day-to-day beating that it does when it's inside the chimney. The day-to-day, the guy who forgets to close the case and leaves it on the bumper and drives off and drags it down the road. Trust me, we've seen it come fall off the roofs. We've seen all types of things. So yeah, it's so we have to build them for rugged designs, and for the last 30 plus years, we've also been repairing and taking care of those units too. So we've got people who have cameras, many cameras that have been back here once or twice a year to be rebuilt and fixed because somebody got careless, and put it back together again for them and ready to go. And so we keep a longevity for units.
Right. I think one really good thing, people that are watching this, from our German colleague that's come in, Dr. Monk, 1832, and he's making a very true statement for the viewers. In Germany, a chimney sweep has to be done every 1, 2, 3 years, depending on the heater. If you don't do it, the government can close your house. Means you have to leave the house until it's all in good shape and it's not a threat to the people living there. So in the U.S., we don't have those kind of regulations. So if you're a consumer listening to us today, it's all about you taking the steps yourself to get there. Tom, I think it's really been interesting today that we've had Debbie Weedwald on here. And to me, Tom, that's a really honor to have her on and be able to share thoughts about Steve, who was a dear friend to many of us. And be honest with you, I was totally shocked when I saw Marvin come in, because Marvin worked for me for years. And
Yeah,
Marvin owns the air duct cleaning company out in Oklahoma City now. And I don't know if you noticed, but he says he uses a scan in every ductwork every day. I mean, to me, that's really amazing. And then Matt Mayer just called in, said this really should be entitled the Tom and Jerry Show. We just keep going through that one years and years. And maybe it's because of our age, Tom. I don't know. We've been together. How many classes do you think you and I have taught over the years and trained chimney sweeps? I mean, I just finished the basic chimney sweeping class 30 minutes before we started this broadcast up today. And, we had a little sound issues. That's why we were a little delayed getting up today, getting this launched. We were supposed to go at 4:30. But again, when you look back over the history that you and I have, we've taught a lot of people, and we've seen the change in the industry that's been very dramatic with the skill level of the people that we train. Would you agree with that?
Maybe. Between you and I, we probably have like close to 60 or 65 years we've been in front of people explaining things. I think there's a scenario here that we need to understand, is that as the amount of companies that have grown, I'm beginning to kind of question some ways how the educational process is flowing, and I think we have technology wise we've dramatically have increased and gotten better and gotten better and gotten better. But at the same time, I'm not too sure whether the training that we're doing right now is really at that place it should be. There's some basic things I think are getting missed along the way, and that's for another show. But it's just a situation, I think, because we see it, because we're talking with sweeps every day, and it's kind of interesting the questions that we do hear, and we're realizing that they don't understand this, or they don't understand that. And it's like, okay, so whether these are things that are being looked at. I have some questions, Jerry.
You understand? And Dr. Monk came in and he's got another question. I'm going to let you answer this one. Do you have many customers who just use their service when it's already too late? Like the chimney is sooted so hard it has to be rebuilt.
Wow. Back in the early days in Pennsylvania, when we didn't have the type of tools and techniques available then, yeah, there was times that you had to tear the chimney down. We would try to do scanning work. Most of the times we would swap the chimney and then we would scan it, because scanning a chimney that's dirty just lets you know that it's dirty up close. So that's why we would go ahead and we would sweep and scan. So that's how we did it back then. As far as soot being done, I have seen chimneys so plugged with creosote, and during the cold winter days, that I would literally have to take a tea kettle off the stove, run up the ladder with it, and just pour the hot water down to unfreeze the chimney so I could get the rest of the creosote out of it. I'm hoping those days are gone. I think a lot of it that we can say here in the United States is that because of the new technology we've done with wood stoves, that ability now to the second generation burns, the amount of creosote has, I think, I'm not going to say dramatically, but definitely has been reduced. And a lot of the more soot accumulations are seen more now. Yeah, so that kind of, so our technology as far as our stoves has dramatically changed. And also, too, as I think we're beginning to realize that chimneys need to be kept warm. And if they can, instead of putting things outdoors where they get too cold, gases, there's just no way the gases are going to stay in a gas, or the smoke is going to stay in a gas state. It's going to condensate out and it's going to glaze over. So I'm sure folks still run across glazed creosote. It's still out there. But for the amount that we used to see in the early days, in the early 80s, compared to now, I'm sure it's not nearly as bad.
Yeah. Well, neat thing is, Tom, and this is where technology's taken us today, which is you and I now are doing teaching together, and we're doing it interactive and online, and we're broadcasting around the world. And, when you talk about it, I think that's some of the things that you and I are going to be teaching in future classes we're trying to keep people informed on those basics and also with the more advanced things, able to word it properly, able to get it in the words the customer can understand. So, you and I have a class coming up on April the 12th, I believe. We entitled it Real World Chimney Inspection. So if you're listening in, hey, watch for this class. We'd love to have you in it. Tom will be broadcasting from there in Fairfield, Iowa. I'll be doing my segment here from Concord, North Carolina. And here's the neat thing about the class. If you want to take it in person, guess what? You can go to Tom's and take the class. You can come here and take the class. And we're giving a money back guarantee. You attend this class and you don't feel like you're getting value, we're going to refund your money. All you got to do is tell us we didn't get no value, because I don't see me and Tom getting together that it's not going to knock out value to anybody out there. It really is. Yeah. Tom, anything else you'd add in today before we kick out of this show?
I know if they want to come, I've got a lab here, and they can sit in the lab and watch us have this broadcast. So yeah, no problems there. I guess we probably would just anything else you want to cover today about since we have a broad range of
anything. If you got more to say, let's do it. There's digital time don't cost a dime. You know that, don't
you? I'm just trying to think what else we could just kind of briefly talk about that would be in trust for the homeowner to understand. I guess is ask questions. I mean, there's something I think I'd like to say something to professionals that are out there now with the public. It's a very interesting change in the way the market's happened, especially in the last five or 6 years. And it used to be called a buyer beware market. Now it's actually a seller's beware market, because there's so many other people who are online in this digital world that can come back around backside of you and basically say, no, I found this information here and that says you're dead wrong. So it really makes, if you're a professional out there and you're working with homeowners, you have to realize that they have the ability to do some research, which is something they've never done before. And now that ability to come back around and bite you, so that means that you have to collect really credible data. You have to collect your data and the information that you want to communicate to the customer in such a manner that they understand it and make sure that they do understand it, instead of just kind of nodding their heads. They have this about that they really do understand what the what's involved in it. So I think that's another thing that a lot of guys just say, just write something down and said, yeah, go ahead and need a repair. I think in this day and age now, the customers become very informed, which means that the information that you give back to them has to be concise and also informative to them. Because if not, there is a way they can come back around and say that you're not telling the truth. So I don't know whether a lot of people are realizing it or not. I know in my market, the things that we do, that you have to really be very aware that they have all kinds of resources they can get to. And here's the interesting part. I'm not finding out some really good, credible stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there talking about fireplace anatomy. It just is really kind of a rough spot right now. So they might be listening to some guy who might be off of an HG or some kind of, reality do-it-yourself program. And what amazes me in all these programs, I have yet to hear anyone ever say, well, gee, we got to make sure the clearance is from the beginning of the opening of the fireplace. Nobody's ever talking about that. They're talking about the color of the surround. They're talking about how wonderful it is and that you can put wood up there and you can do this. But no one's ever said yet that they need to take a look and make sure they understand the the clearances that are necessary. So I don't know. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, and that's it. And there's so many things. That's why having that annual inspection by somebody qualified to do it with the tooling, the educational, and being able to explain it to the customer in a way that the customer understands it. So anyway, this is Tom Urban. His company is Esteban Corporation. He's an inventor. He has brought a lot of things into this industry. He's taught a lot of people over the years, and a lot of people, Tom, are really grateful not only for your tooling, but for your knowledge. And I'm one that enjoys your friendship. You know, we just go back a lot of years, and we've been able to work together. And now, like I said, with the remote world that we're into right now, in the virtual world, I mean, I'm coming at you from my studio. You sitting there with the classroom, and we're building up your stuff and the ability to broadcast out there and be able to put it out there to help people. So if we can help anybody, I'm sure Tom and myself both share the same message, which is if we can help you, let us know how we can help you get to where you're going and going from there. Okay. So Tom, anything else before we leave, brother?
Hey, only thing I got to say, Jerry, is I still haven't accomplished how to drink a hot Dr. Pepper.
now I gotta tell that story. See, that was one time years ago. It was in Charlotte. I reached up and there was a Dr. Pepper, which is a soft drink, and it was up on my dash, and it was hot as could be. And I turned it up, and Tom said, "God, that was hot." I said, "Buddy, ain't none of the better than a hot pepper." He just laughed at that Tom Urban laugh right there. Okay, so anyway, we appreciate everybody joining us. It's really great to be there. Thanks for being here. Debbie, thank you so much for joining. Marvin, it was great to hear from you, buddy. I'm glad.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Marvin.
Was that a shock or was that a shock, Tom?
Yeah, it was a shock. Marvin, I said, Marvin, is that Marvin?
That's Steve Marvin, man. You remember?
Yeah.
I never
knew Marvin's last name. It was always Marvin.
Okay, guys, we appreciate tuning us in on a future episode. We appreciate you being here with us.
Yep. Take care.